What's up, guys? This is Ty Zen, and in this recording, guys, I got my buddy JW on the phone with me. Say hello, JW.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Ty.
Hey, all right. Hey, so we're making this as Bitcoin is cracking $700 for the first time. I think since I think this is the first time I've seen it at 700 since I got into Bitcoin back in 2012ish, 2013.
Same here.
So I think that you and I got into it at the same time, or right around the same time back then.
We did.
Okay.
We did.
So it's cracking 700, and it hasn't been here since. Let me look at the TradingView charts here. But it hasn't been up there since the beginning of 2014. Matter of fact, it hasn't been there since. The last time it was at $700 was on the week of March 2014. And we are on pace. There's enough momentum there to break it and possibly go to 800. The next resistance point, right now I'm looking at the chart, the next major resistance point is around $721.35. So, and that's according to the Bitfinex charts. That's the data from Bitfinex, and I'm looking at it on TradingView.com. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about was this, is what I call the Bitcoin draft or the Bitcoin drafting. Okay, now what happens is as Bitcoin goes up, all the other Bitcoins get hit with the seesaw effect. Okay.
All the other altcoins.
Yeah, and I'll make a separate video about that to explain what is the cryptocurrency seesaw effect. So I'll explain that in a different one. But basically, when the price of Bitcoin goes up, the price of all the other cryptocurrencies, they go down because the value of Bitcoin goes up. And I'll explain more in details in a different video. But in this one, I want to talk about how the Bitcoin draft occurs, because right now, as Bitcoin's breaking $700, it's at $703 now. What's happening is it's causing all the other cryptocurrencies, such as Lisk, such as Ethereum, and everything to go down in terms of the value of at Bitcoin prices. Okay, but in the terms of U.S. dollars, hey, what's all that shuffling?
I just parked, man. I'm in Boston, and
okay.
I pulled over, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of background noise there.
Yeah.
Sorry
about that.
So
yeah.
what happens is as Bitcoin rises in price, the amount of Bitcoin that it takes to purchase all the other cryptocurrencies, since all the other cryptocurrencies are bought using Bitcoins, it's the amount of Bitcoin that's needed to buy, for example, like Lisk, or to buy Litecoin, or to buy Dogecoin, or NXT, or MadeSafe, or Factom, or anything like that. It's going to go down, right?
Right.
So because of that, everybody's taking a hit and everybody's selling out. People that don't understand the cryptocurrency seesaw effect, what they're doing is they are selling out their altcoins, their other cryptocurrencies that's not Bitcoin, and that makes the problem worse. So if you look at something like MadeSafe or Factom, it's tanking, right? In the terms of Bitcoin, maybe not in terms of U.S. dollars, but in terms of Bitcoin, it's going down.
Right, because if you look on CoinMarketCap, Factom still looks good in terms of U.S. dollars.
Yeah. If you look at it in terms of U.S. dollars, the U.S. dollars is fairly the same. For example, like Lisk, even though it has gone from 78,000 Satoshis to about 62,000 Satoshis, the value of it in terms of U.S. dollars is still around the 40-cent range. So even though it has dropped 30% in terms of Bitcoin, it still remains about the same in terms of U.S. dollars. Okay. Okay, so now this is where the Bitcoin draft effect or the Bitcoin drafting effect comes in. Okay, now before I explain what that is, let me explain what draft is. A draft is a term that's used in car racing, so that when the car that's in front, what you do is when they're racing cars. I'm not a expert in racing cars, okay, but I know that whenever I watch NASCAR, because in Dallas we have like one of the biggest NASCAR tracks in the world, right there in the Dallas Fort Worth area. It's north of Fort Worth, so racing is very, very big in that area of the country. So what they do is the guy that's driving in the front, he drives at, let's say, at 200 miles an hour, and what it does is it creates this low pressure behind his car where there's not a lot of resistance. Okay. So because of that, other race drivers want to get in right behind the guy, because then they don't have to waste a lot of fuel. They don't have to waste a lot of effort in their car to maneuver their car, and they can drive a lot faster. So pretty much what they're doing is they're getting a free ride, because as the car in front, let's say the car in the front is number one, as it's racing down the track, it pretty much pulls car number two, and then car number two pulls car number three. So it pulls it all down. That's why whenever you watch the racing, you see them all in a line like that. Now, you guys don't jump on my ass if I explain the concept of race car drafting incorrectly, okay? Because I'm not a race car expert. Just because the NASCAR track is down the street from my house does not make me an expert, okay? All right. So, but what the whole idea behind the drafting, the car drafting, is that it creates a suction that sucks everything with it, okay? It's kind of like going down a whirlpool. It just sucks everything down with it. Well, in the cryptocurrency world, the same thing happens. So if we look back, rewind the tape history back to like 2013, when the last time that Bitcoin broke $1,000, when it first went up, right? What it did was it pushed the price of the value of Bitcoins to buy other cryptocurrency. Let's just call it the altcoins, which stands for alternative coins or alternative cryptocurrency coins. The nickname for it is altcoins. So what happened was, when we did that, when the price of Bitcoin ran up to over $1,000, in the beginning of that move, it temporarily pushed the price of all the other altcoins down. And then after a few weeks, when the media and everybody, there's a frenzy of people and rushing in to buy Bitcoins, because there's always people that miss out, right? And then the media, every time Bitcoin breaks new highs, it's like free publicity and free media for Bitcoin. So because of that, everybody starts to hear about what Bitcoin is. So we have a wave of new investors that come in. And every time we have a new wave of investors that come in, they come in much more hungry, and they come in much more anxious that they missed out on the move. Because if you look at Bitcoin, it went from like $400, $500 just in the last, since the beginning of this year. It went from like around 440, right? It went from, in the last 4 weeks, let me see here.
Right. Right. I paid about $440 to get into waves.
Yeah.
So, pretty close, Ty.
Yeah, in the last 4 weeks or so. Let me see here. In the last it has moved like 60%. Right? It has moved like 60% in the last 4 weeks. So there are people that are new to trading and investing, and they hear that Bitcoin has moved 60% in the last 4 weeks, right? They get greedy and they get anxious and they want to jump in. And when they do, they buy it and it pushes the price up some more. And then there are some people who cannot afford $700 of Bitcoin, and psychologically, the concept, see, you and I have invested in Bitcoins for a long time. So whenever somebody's new to, like our friends, we just tell them just get a quarter of a Bitcoin, a tenth of a Bitcoin, or just get $100 worth of Bitcoin. Does that make sense?
Start with one.
Yeah, or just start with one. But some of our friends cannot, pretty much all our friends can afford 1 or 2 or 5 Bitcoins. That's not a problem. But you know how like you have those young people that, or somebody that's just new, just so new that you don't want them to take so much risk, and you just tell them, just get $100 worth of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can be broken down to 8 decimal places, right? So a lot of people don't know that. A lot of new beginners don't know that. And so what they do is, instead of in buying the Bitcoins, they go and buy other cryptocurrencies, such as Lisk, such as Waves, such as Litecoin, Dogecoin, NXT. So they buy things that they think will go up. And most of the time when people are beginners to trading and investing, the natural instinct is to go buy something cheap. Just like when people first invest into stocks, they try to go and buy penny stocks because they think it's cheap.
Right. We all fell for that.
Yeah. We anyone that's ever invested has fallen for that bullshit before. You buy things that have value. You don't buy things that are just because it's cheap. There's a reason why, like I don't ever buy or sell any stocks that's less than $15, because there's a reason why it's a penny stock. There's no mutual fund or no pension fund or no big institution is going to put $100 million into a penny stock for one reason: there's not enough liquidity to buy it.
Right.
So usually I don't buy or invest in any kind of stocks where you cannot, like if you want to put $1 million into that stock and you cannot get all the stocks instantly without slippage, without moving the price of it, then normally I don't want to deal with it. Right? Like if I can put, in stocks, if I can buy 1,000 shares without moving the price of it, then I'll buy and sell it. But if not, then I don't want to waste time with it. Right? So the same thing that goes into cryptocurrencies. A lot of people, when they come in, they're new, so they think, oh well, let me buy $100 worth of the cheap cryptocurrencies, the 5 cents, 2 cents, 3 cents ones, and let me just get started there. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when they do that, right, it pushes the price back up. So the Bitcoin draft, or the Bitcoin drafting effect, is created by a wave of new investors that come in and buy into the cryptocurrency market. Does that make sense? And it pulls the price back up. So what you can expect is that Bitcoin's going to shoot up to $700, $800, $900, $1,000, and then as it's doing that, somewhere along the line, I don't know when it hits 800. I don't know. More than likely, when it cracks 1,000 again, it will make big news. It's probably making big news right now, but when it breaks 1,000, it's going to be really big news, because then everyone's going to pay attention to it. Right?
I'll tell you, it's making news now. It's over 700 right now, and when I popped the finance page on my, when I logged in this morning, and boom, there was Bitcoin right there. So it's already making big news. Yeah.
So when it cracks, every time it cracks 700, it goes up above 700, 800, 900. There's going to be big news out about about Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. You cannot help it. It's going to happen. Okay. And when there's big news about it, what it does is it creates more publicity. Okay. It creates more publicity, more attention, more new investors coming in to check out what Bitcoin's all about. And there's just people that's going to come in, and they don't have a problem putting $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 into it, which increases the price even more. And that's the thing about Bitcoin, is that the more that people get into it, the more it goes up in price. It's not like, because there's certain stocks that more people can invest into it, but it takes a lot to push the price up.
Hey, Ty, getting back to what we were talking about before with the price of these altcoins.
Yeah.
Even Ethereum, which is doing extremely well now, it's almost at $17.
Yeah, it's setting new record highs.
Yeah. It's if you look at it on Poloniex, and I'm just pulled over here, so let me just log into it's trading at point.
It's trading at 20. It's trading at 239,000 satoshis, and that's the value of that 239,000 satoshis is around $16.92.
Right, and you remember when it went up to almost $15 months back?
Yeah.
It was being at almost 0.025.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that if you look at my previous video where I predicted the price of Ethereum going up to 500,000 millibits, what I forgot to mention in that video was that 500,000 millibits is on the. If you look on the video, it'll show that I predicted the price will go up to the other side of the channel, right? Because I'm a trend trader, I'm a trend investor, and I predicted it. And if you look on the dollar chart, on the daily and the weekly charts, you'll see that if you draw a trend channel the way that I drew it in the Bitcoin, the Ethereum Bitcoin charts, you'll see that we are about to hit that area. And on the U.S. dollar charts, it's around $20.
Nice chart.
Yeah, so that's a good, those are very good educated calls that I made and predictions I made on there. And I hope that, whoever was listening in at that time, benefited from that, because we're about to hit those profit targets.
Right.
So.
And what's LeonFu.com's long-term forecast on Ethereum?
He doesn't have, at that point, so LeonFu.com, his expertise is more in when before the price comes out, before it starts trading, or like a long-term outlook on the fundamentals. So his price predictions and his analysis is always more of a fundamental, like the fundamental structure. And when we talk about fundamental analysis, we're talking about the utility, the value, and the structure of the currency itself, the real world use of it. And that's what his analysis is based on. Whenever I do my predictions and my analysis, it's based on the technical analysis of where people are buying and selling. So sometimes that will align with the fundamental analysis, but it does not always have to. Sometimes what I project and what I predict is going to be different from what he projects and what he predicts, simply because he looks at it from a fundamental perspective and I look at it from a technical perspective on the price charts. And he does not use the price charts to so much. Like his analysis is more like 75% fundamentals and 25% technicals, whereas mine is the other way around. It's 75% technicals and 25% fundamentals.
Nice.
Right. So
good balance between you and the Oracle.
Yeah. So because of that, that's why we have a very well solid and balanced analysis of where the prices are going, because we look at from each one of us is good at that aspect of analysis. Now, does that make sense about the Bitcoin draft or the Bitcoin drafting effect?
100% to me.
Yeah. So the takeaway, the point that you want to take away and the listeners want to take away from this conversation and this video is that in the short term, expect a drop in price of your cryptocurrency in terms of Bitcoin. Okay, in terms of Bitcoin. But then when it starts to break headlines and make new news and everything, then expect for the price of those altcoins to pull back up too.
Right.
Now, so what do you do? So people, when they listen to this, they always want to know, well, what should we do, right? Well, if you have a small account, if you have a small portfolio of cryptocurrencies, then ideally you want to make sure that they are all sitting in Bitcoin. In other words, now is not if you already have some Bitcoins, you want to keep it in Bitcoins because Bitcoin's going up right now. Now, if you have extra Bitcoins, you don't necessarily want to just jump into the altcoins just yet because there's a lot of momentum right now in Bitcoin. There's a lot of momentum right now in Bitcoin. So because of that, it's when you jump into, like, let's say if you jump to Lisk or Factom or MadeSafe or any of those coins like that, what's going to happen is going to continue to go a little bit lower in the short term before the Bitcoin drafting kicks in. Okay, So when the Bitcoin drafting kicks in, then that's when it'll pull it back up. But in the short term, there's going to be a lot of emotional and psychological stress having to sit through that pullback.
Okay. Understood.
Right.
And you can't get emotional in this business.
No, you can't. I mean, like, when you're looking at something that gives you 200, 300, 400, like, even something like Bitcoin, that's been around for a long time, where else in the world are you going to get a 60% return in just 4 weeks? Where else? You tell me. Well, you tell me anything in the world right now that will give you a 60%, right?
Right. And probably a lot of people at that time thought Bitcoin was fairly valued as well.
Yeah.
And you just don't know with this stuff. And I think that return's great. I would take that any day of the week.
Yeah. I mean, in other words, to give the audience an idea of what 60% returns in 4 weeks means, like, because if you just say that, people who are new to investing, they may not be aware of what that means, right? So
right.
If you look at the S&P index, the top 500 companies in the world, right? They move on average. The S&P 500, I think, averages around 11 or 12%. It's just above 10%, right? If you take the average of the last like 50, 60, 70 years or whatever, the top 500 companies in America moved together on average around 11, 12%, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know it's a very low double-digit number, right? And if you look at what the S&P 500 has done since the stock market crash in 2009, since the bottom of 2009, the S&P 500 index has moved like just a little bit over 200%. You see? And Bitcoin just moved 60% in the last 4 weeks.
Right. And combine that with Ethereum and all the other good ones, and
Yeah. And then if you look at, like, if you put like $50,000 US dollars into a JP Morgan Chase bank account, right? In 1 year, they will pay you like one hundredth of a percent interest. It's like $10 or something like that. It's just so small that it's not even worth even pulling out the calculator to do the math, right? And if you took $100 and you invested into Bitcoins just 4 weeks ago, you'd have made $60 by now. You would have made more from your $100 investment in Bitcoin in the last 4 weeks than someone would have made with their $100,000 in a U.S. bank account.
Amazing.
For a whole year.
Yeah. Right.
You see? So that's and the benefits. This is why LeonFu.com and I we stress so hard, and people think that sometimes the idiots that think that we're trying to pump and dump a coin or something. It's not. It's because where else in the world are you going to get these kind of profits and these kind of interest on your money?
Right. And this is good.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about this too. Like, Bitcoin, we believe is a great thing, and Ethereum is accepted. I mean, it's just, we're living in great times now.
Yeah, we are. Imagine all those. Imagine we're getting a little sidetracked here from the Bitcoin drafting effect. So let's just go ahead and end this, and then maybe we can discuss that in a separate, because it's already 30 minutes already for this one. Okay, so so thanks for watching and listening to this video, guys. If you guys like it, give me a thumbs up. If you guys have any other additional questions or comments about what's a Bitcoin drafting effect, then let me know, or a Bitcoin draft. And if you guys have any ideas or questions for future videos, just leave it in the comments below. And if you have any friends or family or colleagues that want to learn how to invest in the cryptocurrency market, make sure you share our channel with them and ask them to subscribe to it. All right? And we'll catch you guys in a future video.
Sounds good.